In June 2019, during his Democracy Day address to Nigerians, President Muhammadu Buhari promised to move 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within a space of 10 years. However, that promise seems to be highly inconsistent with present-day realities, which continue to show an exponential increase in unemployment in the country. Again, after a 2-year delay, the National Bureau of Statistics published Nigeria's second quarter 2020 labor statistics on Friday, and the figures still make for grim reading to a reasonable extent. Before now, economic and finance experts had found it difficult to assess the nature of the labor market and how to measure the impact of government policies targeted at creating jobs because of a lack of real-time labor data. But the latest figures only slightly ease concerns as the National Bureau of Statistics published second quarter 2020 labor statistics, the first report since quarter 3, 2018. Joining us now to crunch the numbers and try to make sense of it all is Dr. Obiora Madu, President, Association of Outsourcing Professionals of Nigeria. Welcome to the morning show.
Thank you very much, Ruben.
Yes, Dr. Madu, you are welcome. Thank you for joining us. Well, this morning, this will be about the third time we'll be referring to unemployment figures, inflation figures, and even before COVID-19, the unemployment rate in Nigeria was quite frightening. And now from the latest reports, it's even gotten worse, and it may not necessarily improve. The question is, what do we do? We all know how we got to this point. What kind of policy measures do you think government should adopt? We've heard about economic sustainability initiatives. We've heard of the intervention of the central bank focusing on job creation. We've had the president on a regular basis saying that addressing the unemployment challenge, which if you add unemployment ratio to the underemployment, is over 50% in real terms. What do we do going forward?
Thank you very much, Dr. Batty. I think going forward, we need to change the attitude of doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Here, there's a lot of opportunity to create employment. Let's take the agricultural sector. I know that there seem to be activities in the agri sector, but where are the opportunities in some of these activities? You talked about interventions. I'm very skeptical about all these interventions because at the end of the day, there is no proof actually that a lot has been achieved with it. Several sectors of the industry that will improve employment is not even being looked at. Let me give you an example. I am the president of Association of Outsourcing Professionals. The outsourcing industry has capacity. In fact, some years back when Aganga Williams was Minister of Finance, there was a research as to which 3 industries will give the most jobs within the shortest possible time. And outsourcing, construction, and entertainment were the decision. Of course, a few meetings were held, and it went the same way it normally will. And again, for example, each time government is talking about non-oil revenue, they are referring to tax. So what happened to the diversifying the economy? What happened to the non-oil export sector? What happened to creating export-led poverty alleviation and economic growth situations? So the truth is that when the productive sectors are in trouble, there is no way you can create employment. Take the SMEs, for example, who are actually the people who are employing. Cost of their doing business is very, very high. If you could bring it down, more people get employed immediately. So we have a lot of, even on the tech side, Nigerian young men and women are doing wonders. Jobs can be created in that direction. But the fact is, we need to really get strategic and stop doing things the way we are doing it. We pick up some industries that can give us jobs, put money there. We've been doing a lot of borrowing lately, and if we're not putting it in productive sector for purpose of creating employment, then I think that it's going to be quite tough. I'm even surprised with the rise from 2018, almost 2 years till now. I'm surprised that the increase was that low.
Dr. Madu, a lot of optimism has been expressed with the signing into law, the new KAMA law, signing into law the new KAMA bill by the president. This, they say, has a lot of potentials for small businesses. Is this some sort of light at the end of the tunnel for these numbers of unemployed Nigerians? I mean, small businesses, better operating business environment, reducing the hurdles for them. What are your thoughts? Do you think that the KAMA solves at least part of the problem?
Yes, KAMA will solve part of it. But I think the part that it will solve is really not much. Because with all that in place, if other issues are not tackled, I think we will probably not be able to get a full benefit of it. Fantastic policy, fantastic act that he has signed. But then, what are the other things that we need to do to be able to take advantage of it? Because with all that, it will reduce maybe cost of registration, reduce stress of registration. That's not where the challenge is. A lot of people are actually doing their businesses without registration. Business name registration is not expensive. So everybody's not going for limited liability companies and the rest of them. But what I am saying is that we need to, after doing that, where are the industries where the jobs are? What can we do about them? And because it is possible, these things are working in other countries. Very good, KAMA, very good, but then where do we go now? In addition to KAMA, we will now get the greatest jobs to create for our people. So we need to do a whole lot more. The finance sector, Ruben had talked about intervention. The interventions are there, but another challenge is that we don't measure. We don't have key performance indicators that we use to measure some of these things. So years will go by, and we're not in a position to say whether we're moving forward or moving backward. So that's what we need to create. Target some industries, create KPIs, have people be accountable. Then, of course, I'm sure that it's not terrible. We have everything going for us. We have natural resources. We have brilliant people. But I think a lot needs to be done from the government side.
All right, Dr. Madu, but we're talking as though we're surprised. We shouldn't be surprised. I mean, we saw when those jobs were filtering away in this country. We saw when Ilupeju Industrial Estates was no longer very industrial. We saw how these companies left. We can name them, Dunlop, Cadbury, and they keep leaving Nigeria. Those were the jobs going away. And we know the potential we have in manufacturing. Take, for instance, Foxconn. Foxconn is a manufacturing company out of China. On their production line, employs 2 million people, 2 million. But we don't have a lot of manufacturing in this country. Insecurity is a problem. No access to electricity. Are we talking about the things that make it difficult to do business in this country first, rather than talk about how to outsource and innovate?
Thank you very much. I was laughing while we were talking because in 2005, I was part of a team that was doing impact assessment of export incentives, the export expansion grant. And I had the privilege of speaking with the MD of Michelin in Port Harcourt. And he showed me a paper showing the cost of his running the generators in about 3 plants where they are not even connected to the national grid. And he said then that if nothing happens,
Dr. Madu? Dr. Madu?
Looks like we've lost connection with him.
the conditions where, and then.
Hello, Dr. Madu?
Michelin is still in Nigeria importing and selling tires and making money, but we're not getting any benefit in terms of employment. So I agree with you. A lot of these things, one of the biggest outsourcing company in the world spoke to me. They want to come to Nigeria. Their biggest challenge is power and security. We spoke for 45 minutes trying to convince them to come to Nigeria, but it's a difficult sell. It's a difficult sell. So what you are saying is true. Is all these policies, if you do not create the environment where the cost of doing business, what of logistics infrastructure? It's affecting traders. It's affecting every sector. As I speak to you, if you check some export products from Nigeria, their local price is higher than the international market price. And this is occasioned by these infrastructural logistics challenges. So all these things are areas that we need to take a look at, and I'm sure we can get out of it.
Well, Dr. Madu,
yes, sir.
In the introduction, when we started this conversation, we had referred to the promise by President Buhari that he was going to make job creation a priority, 100 million jobs within 10 years. But since 2015, that the president assumed office, the unemployment rate in Nigeria has more or less tripled. As at the last report, quarter two report for 2020, unemployment is even higher than the employment rate. That one is about 28.6%. Now, what excuses can you give for government? Because it looks like government itself may probably be handicapped. I mean, crisis within the global oil economy, the shutdown of the supply chain, issues with power, with infrastructure, and all of that. And where do you think the role of education is in this? Because I've also heard people say, well, you are not just dealing with employment and underemployment, you are also dealing with a generation of young Nigerians who are unemployable.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Ruben. You went to my stuff there, because when we are talking about infrastructure, there are two types of infrastructure, the hard infrastructure and the soft infrastructure. The soft infrastructure is the people, Something is terribly wrong with our education system. In 2010, I had the privilege of working with the World Bank. I had 317 fresh graduates who I was supposed to, I took them on soft skills and the rest of them. And I mean, in a class, a young man just raised his hand and said, excuse me, sir, why don't they teach us this in the university? Because it's not about degrees. It's about bringing something to the table to the people who are looking to employ people. I don't know if you've had the misfortune of being in an interview panel where graduates are being interviewed. Then you will understand what I'm talking about. So education has a lot to do. I think I was on a program on this station when this 10 million promise was made. And I said that was over ambitious, because there was nothing at that point in time that even gives the slightest light into such a possibility. Just like you said, it's been going down and down and down. So, but you know, the worst thing is that until you tell yourself the truth, because I think, I don't know whether we are being pushed beyond the wall now, because if you don't tell yourself the truth, accept a situation, the reality, and then face it, I don't think we will get far. So I have no excuses to make, because from the industries I belong to the education industry, I belong to the outsourcing industry, I belong to the export industry. I can see clearly what is possible in these sectors. But the point is that...
Let's take a short break, and then we'll return and continue the conversation with you. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Arise News Channel. Still with us is Dr. Obiora Madu, President, Association of Outsourcing Professionals of Nigeria, who has been looking at the crisis of unemployment in Nigeria.
Well, Dr. Madu, if you can hear me.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I was wondering if you had finished on the point you were making earlier in response to the role of education in all of this. If you have, permit me to ask my next question, which has to do with the negligible impact we are recording, even from the intervention schemes by the government. Do you think that there's a disconnect between government policies and the Nigerian youth? Is that also a factor we are dealing with here?
There's a huge disconnect, really, because I was in a meeting yesterday with a government agency that was looking for how to increase services export from Nigeria. And they were shocked in the meeting when the young people who were present at the meeting really told them where the exporters of services are. That is these young people in the 20s and 30s who are not captured in any of these things you are talking about. So yes, there's a disconnect, and services export is huge. And if you want to get value from it, then you look to the young people. So there's a disconnect. With the huge youth population that we have, we can take the world by storm. So that disconnect needs to be, they were very surprised at the kind of opportunities that the young people mentioned, that we had a musician and we had an IT person, we had someone in the coaching side, and it was fantastic. The huge opportunities.
Can I ask you something honestly? Where do you think the jobs are in this country? Take a panoramic view across every sector possible. Where do you think the jobs are? Where do you think can give us, 800,000 or 300,000 net jobs every year on year for the next 10 years in this country?
There's job in agriculture. Structured properly. We used to have what they call farm settlements and the rest of them in the past. There's job in agriculture if handled properly. There's job in outsourcing. The services sector is about 57% or thereabout of the GDP of this country. We don't even have record of what's the component of that services that are being exported at the moment. We are not capturing services export. Services export is about 2/3 of global trade as I speak to you, and it's growing, which is why ITC said that by 2050, 80% of the people working worldwide will be working in services. So services is it. Outsourcing is part of it, and several other areas of services. It's so important that WTO recognized it and then institutionalized it. Trade in services, even in the African Continental Free Trade Area, there's a protocol on goods, there's a protocol on services. So these two areas, of course, services is quite wide, very, very wide. Of course, manufacturing, you are saying, if someone set up a small, even if it is Zobo factory, 1, 2, 3 people will get jobs. But if you're talking about massive jobs, look at the service industry, which includes entertainment, creative industry, and the rest of them, and then look at agriculture. If we do the right things in these two places, we will get a lot of jobs.
Well, Dr. Madu, when we talk about unemployment in Nigeria, we often rely on statistics from National Bureau of Statistics. We talk about the federal government's plans to create jobs. We often tend to overlook the states. What should the states be doing? Many of these states that are heavily indebted, and they have governors that go about in long convoys, disturbing people with sirens. What should be the responsibility of the state governments?
The state governments have a lot of responsibilities, actually. I think the structure, every organization like Nigeria as a nation, the structure affects what happens. I think at the state level, people are not thinking at all. Because, for example, if we're saying agriculture, it doesn't happen in Abuja. Agriculture happens in the states and the local governments. So there has to be a paradigm shift of some of this, because a lot of things that we're even blaming federal government for are things that should be on the doorstep of the states. I agree with you absolutely. In fact, there was a program I held some years back. We were talking about the role of states and local government in export development and policy implementation. Because that's where it happens. That's where it happens. States should be looking at industries and say, we want to be the leader in this. We want to be, if you go to India, the BPO city is in Bangalore. It's like for a state in Nigeria to say, I want to be the BPO state in this country, set up the infrastructure, and the jobs will come. They will come. So the states are not thinking, and I think it's a general destiny in the country. If you have a place where you run to at the end of the month and collect some money, then you don't have to bother. But the day that thing dried, that's why I wrote an article sometime that said this oil has killed us. Some people understood what I was saying. Some people didn't understand it. Because if you didn't have opportunity to be going to somewhere to pick up some money at the end of the month, then of course you will do something. So the states have a role, and in that role need to be pushed back, and they need to be made to understand that is their role so that they can play it.
And are there any quick fixes? I mean, we understand these challenges that are there, challenges of power, infrastructure, industrialization, but are there any quick fixes this government can tap into?
Well, there are no quick fixes, really. Quick fixes don't work. What I would rather say is that unless you are talking about low-hanging fruits, if you're talking about low-hanging fruits, I think I've mentioned some of them. It is very easy. Like that time that research was done, 3 industries were identified: entertainment, construction, and outsourcing. That these 3 industries can give. If you go to Bangalore in US, 3.5 million young people work in 3 shifts, 24 hours every day. The light never goes off there. So these things are possible. So the low-hanging fruits are there. It's about identifying it and then close our eyes and push. Let us forget the fact that we have oil. We need to really ignore. We need to ignore it before we can get out of this. If we are still as comfortable, I mean comfortable in quotes, as we are, then I think we will not do the things that we're supposed to do.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Madu. I think we'll just rest it here. I would like to thank you for your time and thank you for coming on board and talking to us about this. Yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to utilize the remaining few seconds.
It's fine. I think Dr. Madu said a lot.
Okay, that's good then.